What's going on, everybody? We've got a really solid slate here, and this one has a little bit of everything. We've got a couple of championship-level teams, a few teams trying to keep momentum alive, and a few matchups where the betting edge comes from defense, depth, and which side is simply more trustworthy right now. Let's go game by game and get into the board. First up, Minnesota taking on Dallas. Minnesota is one of the true top-tier teams in this league. When you look at the championship picture, there are only a handful of teams that really feel like title-level teams, and Minnesota is right there near the top of that list. They've got the record to back it up, and even when they're not at their sharpest, they still find ways to win games. That showed up in their last game, too. They pulled out a road win against Washington by 2, and that was more impressive than the final score might suggest because they spent most of that game trailing. That kind of result tells you a lot about the mentality of the team. Even when the offense or the bench isn't perfect, they still have enough structure and quality to close games out. Dallas comes in with a good record too, but I'm not fully trusting them here. They've been going the wrong direction lately, and their recent results have made it harder to buy into them against the better teams in the league. They had a hot start, but now the losses are starting to stack up in spots they really should be competing in. The matchup also matters here. Minnesota already beat Dallas by 24 at home a few weeks ago, and that's a pretty massive margin. The concern for Dallas is that they don't defend well enough to make this a comfortable matchup. Minnesota should be able to create enough problems inside and keep the pressure on throughout. My best pick is Minnesota laying the points. For the total, I like over 177.5. The matchup profile points towards scoring, and Minnesota has enough offensive quality to help push it up. Next up, Portland taking on Washington. This is a tricky game from a betting perspective because Portland has already been banned from consideration, but the way this matchup sets up still makes the number interesting. Washington has not been especially comfortable at home this season, which is something that stands out right away. They've also had a strange schedule split, with more road games than home games, which is unusual and not exactly ideal. Portland started the year with a lot of hype after beating the Liberty in 2 out of 3 games, but that early momentum has faded quickly. They've been getting blown out in recent games, and the defensive side of things has become a major issue. When a team gives up that kind of scoring in back-to-back games, it becomes really hard to trust them in any spot. Washington has had its own issues, though. They come into this one with only 8 wins on the season, and their offense has not been consistent enough to make the team feel safe. Even with some of the numbers looking okay in stretches, the recent scoring output has been rough, and that makes them hard to love as a favorite. Still, if you're forced into a side, Washington is the only one that makes sense from a betting standpoint here. Portland's recent form has been too poor to ignore. My best pick is Washington to win. For the total, I like over because both teams have shown enough defensive issues to make a higher scoring game very possible. Next up, the Aces taking on Chicago. This is one of the best spots on the card. The Aces are the kind of team that belongs in that short list of real championship threats. They've got the record, they've got the form, and they've got the overall quality advantage almost everywhere you look. Chicago, on the other hand, is coming off back-to-back home wins and might feel like they've found a little bit of momentum. But I don't trust that momentum to hold up in this spot. They've been playing against weaker competition, and now they're stepping into a much tougher matchup. The Aces already beat Dallas by 15 in their last game, and that kind of result shows where they are right now. They are strong on both ends, and they can expose teams that don't defend well or don't have enough size and consistency. Chicago has shown some signs of life, but this is a huge step up in class. The pace and environment also matter. This is not the kind of game where I'm worried about a slow, grinded-out matchup. The Aces should be able to control the game, create the better looks, and keep the pressure on from start to finish. My best pick is Aces laying the points. For the total, I like over. Last game of the night, New York taking on the Valkyries. This is probably the best game overall from a pure basketball standpoint. New York is still one of the top championship-level teams in the league, and even though this road trip has not gone perfectly, the talent level is still clearly there. They beat the Aces to start the trip, but then they dropped the other two games, and that's created a little bit of friction around the current form. The Valkyries have had some good home results lately, but I'm not sold on them the way the market seems to be at times. They've had some late game issues, and they've shown a tendency to give away leads when the pressure ramps up. That matters a lot in a game like this because New York has the kind of scoring punch that can make teams pay late. The Liberty do have some concerns. Their rebounding has been shaky, and their three-point shooting can swing their whole identity. When the outside shots are falling, they're very difficult to beat. When they aren't, the offense can look much less dangerous. Still, I trust their overall quality more than I trust the Valkyries' depth. The Valkyries have been leaning too hard on a small core of production, and that makes them vulnerable in late-game situations. If the game is tight down the stretch, I'd rather have New York's overall class and experience. My best pick is New York to win. For the total, I like under 163.5. So here's the board for today. Minnesota is the side I like most in that first game. They've proven they belong in that top tier, and even when they're not at their sharpest, they still find ways to win. Dallas has had some good moments this season, but right now I trust Minnesota more because they have the stronger overall profile and the better ability to control the game when it matters. I also like the over 177.5 in Minnesota and Dallas. That matchup has the kind of ingredients that can get us there, especially if Minnesota is able to keep applying pressure and Dallas is forced to keep up. The last meeting showed how wide the gap can be when Minnesota is rolling, and the scoreline could open up again if the game turns into a faster, more free-flowing contest. In the Washington game, I'm leaning Washington on the side. It's not the cleanest spot on the board, but Portland has been too unreliable lately to make me want to trust them, especially after the defensive problems they've shown in recent games. Washington hasn't been perfect either, but they're still the more reasonable side to back in that matchup. I also like over in Portland and Washington. Both teams have shown enough issues defensively to make a higher scoring game very possible, and when two teams are struggling to consistently defend, that usually creates a better path to the over than trying to force a side. For the Aces and Sky, I like the Aces laying the points. This is one of the strongest sides on the card because the Aces have the cleaner overall profile, the better form, and the clear advantage in a matchup like this. Chicago may have picked up a little momentum, but this is a much bigger step up in class, and I expect the Aces to take control. I also like the over in Aces and Sky. The Aces can score in bunches, and if Chicago is forced to play from behind, that only helps the scoring environment. That makes the over a strong companion play to the side. In the night game, I like New York on the side. They've had some uneven results on the road trip, but the overall quality is still there, and I trust them more than I trust the Valkyries in a tight game. The Valkyries have been competitive at times, but I'm still more comfortable backing the more established team in this spot. I also like under 163.5 in Liberty and Valkyries. That's the kind of number that makes sense if the game stays more controlled and New York is able to dictate the tempo. If the Liberty defend the way they're capable of, this can stay in a lower scoring range and give us a better chance to cash the under. That's the board. The biggest edges here come from team strength, recent consistency, and which sides are most capable of handling pressure late. Minnesota and the Aces are the cleanest plays on the board. New York has the better overall profile in the late game, and the totals in the first and last games have the best chance to line up with the way these matchups should play out. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with somebody who's betting these games tonight. It helps the channel a lot, and it lets me keep bringing you these daily picks and breakdowns. And I'll catch you in the next one.